This video is going to be a really quick one. We're going to be going over what is the top 5 fastest TTK SMGs that are currently inside Warzone 3 at the moment. Let's get straight into it. So the first thing we did is pulled all the numbers from the True Game Data website. I'll leave a link to that down in the description below. This is for 300 HP, which is obviously what we get inside Warzone now, and also this is chest shots only. If you want to see mixed TTKs and things like that, you can check out the link like I said. But as we've got here is all the SMGs that are currently in the game. There's quite a lot of options now. There's pretty good sniper support options in here as well, which we'll cover in a future video, but for now we're mainly focusing on the close range TTKs. And the ranges that we are looking at is range 1 and 2. We don't really care too much about range 3 for these guns in particular at the moment. Now the main one in my opinion is range 1. Now some guns do drop off around about 7-ish meters depending on which one it is. Some of them obviously have slightly further damage ranges, but the kind of shortest ones are around about 7 meters, so just keep that in mind if you are trying to use a gun that's kind of a little bit better in that mid-range. But we're mainly focusing on this close TTK here, and as you can see, when we are organizing for the fastest TTK guns, the FENNEC is on top. Now the FENNEC is on top by quite a bit actually. Then we do have the ISO 9mm, which is also another fast TTK option. We've got the WSP Swarm, which the reason why this one feels a little bit better than the other two is that it doesn't drop off nearly as much in terms of the TTK when you extend it past its first damage drop off point, so you're still going to get a pretty solid TTK out to range. The LACHMANN Shroud is not really a very good option in general. The reason why is because it's a burst fire SMG, and SMGs really need to be very consistent, high fire rate and all that good stuff. The MX9 here, pretty good TTK. The only issue is that it does drop off pretty hard. Then we've got the Striker. The WSP9 is also a really solid one, but this is also including the open bolt delay on this gun, so that is factored into the TTKs. You do get a slightly faster TTK if you're already firing the gun, so that will be boosted up slightly higher on this list, but I will also factor it in just because it is important. And then we do have the ISO 45, and everything below that, to be fair, is going to be a bit of a slower TTK gun, but obviously it doesn't mean that they're bad SMGs. They just could be better for maybe like sniper support options. Quickly moving on to the builds now, we're going to start off with the FENNEC-45. We're going to get through these builds very quickly. I'll give you a couple of different alternate attachment options, and then we'll get through this. Now, the FENNEC-45 has the fastest TTK in the game, so you do need to give it a chance regardless to see if you like it. Mag capacity is too small. That's the only thing I would say. You only be able to kill one enemy at a time with this gun, regardless of kind of what game mode you're playing. So you do need the largest mags, obviously. You do need the laser on here. I do think this is the best attachment for SMGs, which is the one that helps aim walking steadiness, aim down sight, and sprint to fire. Then we do have the FTAC RECON barrel, and the reason for that's for the aim walking movement speed. You also do get aim down sight speed, but it does con your recoil and your bullet velocity, which isn't really too important if you're in point blank range anyway. Colossus suppressor does help with recoil. Now you don't need to use a suppressor on an SMG, I don't think, for the most part in this game, so you can get away with using something like one of the kind of compensator attachments which help with recoil control, like the AVR compensator for example is pretty good. That is one of the ones I would recommend because it helps with recoil control, but only kind of cons your idle stability and aim down sight, so that's something you can swap out here. But the Colossus suppressor does help out. The only issue with it, like I said, is that it's going to con your damage range, and for certain guns like the FENNEC or like the WSP, they already have a small damage range to begin with, so that's something you don't maybe want to con with this type of weapon. So just keep that in mind when you are picking attachments. Brune Heavy Underbarrel Grip is the best underbarrel grip to use for any gun pretty much at the moment, so you might as well use it. And then we've got the FENNEC mags there. In terms of recoil control at that close range is pretty easy, pretty straightforward to be honest. Even at that kind of mid-range, you can still land your shots with this gun very easily. Now, obviously, you can make a faster strafing build, but as you can see, the strafe on this gun is pretty solid as well. So overall, a very good SMG. The only thing that lets it down, obviously, is that mag capacity, but we already know that. The next one's the ISO 9mm. Now, this build's relatively the same. You want the largest mags available, which is the 50-round drum mags. 30 rounds is base, and then 20 rounds is the other attachment, so you don't really need either of those. We are using the demo fade TAC, and that's because it helps with the aim walking speed. Again, that strafe is important. Then we do have the same laser, as always. The underbarrel grip, for some reason, I can't choose the Brune underbarrel grip here, for some weird reason, I don't know why. But if it is available, then please do use that. But in the meantime, I've picked this one, but it kind of does similar things. The Brune is better. Just keep that in mind. Colossus suppressor once again. Taking this into the firing range, as you can see, when it comes to recoil control, Very easy to manage actually, even though it's one of the faster TTK guns. When it comes to strafing speeds, not quite as good as the Fennec. The Fennec is pretty quick, but it's obviously not too bad. I'm not saying you're going to lose gunfights with this. Obviously, equip it with certain perks and things. You'll obviously get a pretty good strafe speed on this gun as well. Now, if you are able to manage recoil a little bit better, or you don't care too much to have the best control on the gun, then obviously you can swap out some other attachments to get a bit more on your aim walking speed. Next up, we've got the most popular SMG in the game right now, and that is the WSP Swarm, for good reason. Its TTK is just very good at kind of medium and close range, and because that range of TTK is pretty good, most people are going to feel like this gun is the best in terms of TTK overall. Now, obviously, it is a solid weapon. Now, my favorite build for this is the factory stock for the strafing speeds. Once again, we do need the strafe. We were using that laser once again, which is really, really important. We are using the Colossus Suppressor. Again, you can remove this and put like an AVR compensator on there if you really wanted to. Bruin underbarrel grip is the best underbarrel grip. Like I said, it is just the best one to use. And then we've got the 50 round mags on there. Now, you can use the 50 or the 100. Both are actually good options. The 100 is obviously going to slow you down quite a lot. But the 50 I think is a good balance for most people, and I think most people will be using the 50. But again, similar to the Fennec, you will only be able to kill one enemy at a time with this gun, and it's just the way it's built, unfortunately. Taking us into the firing range, again, you can see here that TTK obviously will be insane, but also in terms of just recoil control and strafing speeds, it's actually not that hard to manage, even though we don't have that recoil controlling stock on there. People like to have the recoil control stock, but I personally rather have the faster strafing speeds. I think it's going to help you win way more gunfights, especially if you just learn how to pull down on your analog stick. Next up, we have my favorite SMG in the game right now, and that's a Striker. Now, I never thought I'd say that, especially since playing Modern Warfare 2019, but this gun is really good. We're using the same laser, we're using the stubby barrel, which is going to help with the aim walking speed once again, Colossus Suppressor once again, and we are using the hand stop underbarrel, so the XRK hand stop, the one that helps with movement speed. We are using the biggest mags on this gun. Now, you don't have to on the Striker, you can use the 48 rounds, that's good enough. But I just think the 60 rounds just helps out a ton, especially if you don't need to reload between gunfights, and you can take out multiple enemies with this SMG, which is really good. Now, the main reason why this gun is so good is because the recoil is pretty much non-existent on this gun. This gun does not move, doesn't matter who's using it. It's pretty much a super easy gun to use. Strafing speeds are relatively decent. Not the best, but they can be improved if you use the smaller mag, and if you maybe swap out a couple of attachments and don't use the suppressor, you will get slightly better movement speeds. But overall, this gun is probably the most well-rounded SMG we've had in a long time inside Warzone, especially since Modern Warfare 2. So this is the one I'd recommend for 90% of people because it is probably the easiest one to use. Taking this into the firing range, you can see here is super low recoil. Very easy to manage this gun, even though we don't have very many recoil attachments on it. So that is ideal, and obviously, as you can see, I can land shots at that 20 meters very easily. Also, strafing with this gun, as much as it's not the fastest out of this list, it's still not too bad, and obviously we have pretty much gave it a movement build. Now, none of the attachments help with aim walking on this gun, which is a bit unfortunate. I wish it did, and in that way we would get a bit faster strafing speeds, but for the most part, it's still a decent strafe when it comes to SMGs in general. So there we have it. Those are the 5 fastest TTK SMGs inside Warzone 3. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much for watching.